I know ours was, and I hope you have lots of questions. We're going to open this up at the very end, but at this time I want to reintroduce Mr. Matt Arnold, and he's going to introduce our panel for this afternoon.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stanley. And did y'all have a good time? Yeah. Did you learn something you didn't know this morning when you came here? Yeah. Well, that's what our goal is. Our goal in this whole process is to get you guys to be able to think of ways you can better prepare your students for the jobs that we have right here in Marshall County. And that's why we do this. Ben said a minute ago when we first got here, he said, you know, it's interesting that they all seem to come back with a whole different attitude and look about them than they do in the morning, because in the morning everybody's like, why are we here? What are we going to learn out of this? What are we going to get out of this? But then when you have to do these tours, you really see what we're trying to convey to you guys. So we're going to have a panel discussion here. I'm going to lead it off. We've got 4 titans of industry in Marshall County here with us. We have to my left Patrick Shaw. Patrick is the HR manager of Mueller and is retired U.S. Army. Thank you for your service. Air Force. Thanks, Ben. You said Army. Jeff Thomas is the plant manager at Newman. He's on the end. Alan Davis is the owner and president of BPI Media here in Boaz. He's also a former Boaz City School Board member. And then last but not least, we have Kelly Bailey, who is safety and HR manager for Southern Metal Fab. Okay, we'll get started. I'm going to start off with some questions. And I'll put this first one to Jeff Thomas. What do you see as the biggest challenge for high school graduates in transitioning from an academic environment to the workplace environment?
So one of the things that we're working very, very diligently at Newman is the new associate that is not ready to work, or the associate that doesn't possess the skills to understand what it is to get up, put your work boots on, and come to work every day on time. How to act at work, how to present themselves to their fellow associates around them, and what our expectations is, and how are they going to deliver to us. We've had the opportunity to partner with Snead State actually for the Ready to Work program, and that's part of it is the Ready to Work program, which uses the ACT work keys as well, and you're all familiar with that. Part of I think part of your curriculum now is they must be a silver or a gold, pass that in high school to graduate, and that's what we're teaching there as well. And you'd be surprised at the students that come, or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, I don't know, but you'd be surprised at the new associates that we get, whether they're the 18-year-olds or the 28-year-olds that are not what we would consider ready to work. So I think that's our biggest challenge is, why do I have to get up and be at work every day at 6 o'clock? Why can't I be there at 6:30? Or, what do you mean I can't leave an hour or 2 hours for lunch and come back? Those type of things, we get those every day. Every day we have that there, so that's a challenge for us to put that into their mind, that this is the way we're going to be every day to be productive in the workforce.
Kelly, can you elaborate on that?
I'll just echo what he is saying. My biggest challenge is getting people to work. They don't understand that I told them to be there at 6 o'clock. 6:05, give or take, 6:15, no big deal. The other thing is just communicating with each other. They don't understand any sort of communication except cell phones. There's somebody's cell phone ringing a second ago. I mean, that's how we communicate today. No, sorry, I didn't mean to pull you right out, but that's the only way we can communicate. We sit next to each other and we don't even have a conversation. We tic-tac, tic-tac, and that's all we know how to do. My guys go to break, they don't even socialize anymore. But I've got 4 keys to success, nothing elaborate. Number 1, you gotta be safe. You gotta have a safe attitude. We got kids eating Tide Pods. Do you think we really are looking at safety? So, I mean, if they want to do something that's kind of a shock challenge, give them a mock paycheck, show them how much federal tax they pay. Number two, attendance, because if they can't get there, I don't need them. I mean, we all have that same thing. And when I say attendance, I mean, they've got to get there on time. I was at the sawmill before I went to Southern Metal. I've seen all kind of people. I had a rule, when you come to orientation, 8 o'clock, my door locked. Threats. They were there at 8:01, knocking on the door, cussing me out. What's the big deal about being late? You're late. Be there on time. Then productivity. Actually doing something when you get there. I've got plenty of people that can hold their pockets. And you all know how to hold your pockets. You stick your hands in there and that way they don't run off. We've got people that'll stand there, they'll watch somebody else work, and they expect to get a paycheck. So you got to teach them that while they're there, they got to be doing something. I don't care if it's just pushing a broom. That's still important. And then attitude. If your attitude sucks, your attitude just sucks, and I'm going to call you on it. So those are just kind of my 4 keys to success. If you can overcome those, you can success about any place you go. Succeed any place you go.
Just like these guys, all of our jobs in the shop are time sensitive. When we say time sensitive, we take those in with an expectation from our customer of we will have that there on X date. Now, downstream, people are assuming that that's going to happen if we agree to that. Whether it be a trade show, whether it be a corporate rollout, whatever it may be. To expand on his point, if we have employees who don't show up in a timely manner, we miss those dates. And sometimes it's very difficult to get a young employee to understand why that matters downstream or upstream if they're not there in a timely manner. And we work on that, it seems like, on a daily basis for a while. We will only go so far, and then we will not have the conversation again. So it's a challenge, and the ones that overcome that, like you said, is can do just about anything if they get that part.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'm going to try to take a little bit different approach in that I've seen 2 different sides of this. I need to turn that off. I've seen 2 different sides of this, and I've only been at Mueller for the last 6 months, and I can tell you in the last 6 months, beginning in August time frame, the single event that has gotten most employees terminated, new employees, has been an attendance issue. But it's not just attendance. I think that it's something bigger than that, and being accountable for your actions and having that accountability and understanding that there's consequences with choices that you make. And I'm going to say that that's not unique to our community here. In the 30 years that I spent in the Air Force, it was something that was also prevalent there, that we had to work very hard to try to help young people understand that you're going to be accountable for your actions, and that there's certain expectations and consequences when you don't meet those expectations. So I can give you as much detail as I have new employees that come in that don't even have their own email address. They have a girlfriend or a mother that's having to get the email for their payroll stuff. And we have to challenge them on that, to be responsible for their own information concerning their pay. So there's some real accountability concerns there, and that's just a bigger piece of why attendance is such a challenge. And in the first 120 days, I explained to our probationary employees, the one thing that's going to get you terminated right off the bat is not showing up. No exceptions. You've got to be there. And I can't tell you how many times that once they're terminated, they're like, but I only missed once. Well, I mean, the discussion was not any. So that's one of the greatest challenges that we're having that you can help us with.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. And I'll just keep it, I'm going to start the next question with you as well. We'll just kind of go back and forth. You talked a lot about attendance, and and that attendance being so pivotal and critical to having a good workforce. And guys, that starts with y'all. That starts with attendance in school. And that's why school systems are starting to take a much more proactive role in making sure the students show up. And if they're not there, there's got to be a pretty good reason why they're not there, because those habits start when workers are kids and they're learning these things. The next question is kind of a two-part question, and it deals with what we'll define as a first job. And by first job, we mean first real job, maybe not necessarily a high school job, fast food or grocery store job, but a first real job, drawing a real paycheck, starting your life and making a living. And we'll start with you, Patrick. In your company, or in Mueller, what is the main reason that first job employees fail to be successful? We probably know the answer to that for a lot of these guys. The second part of that question is, what are the traits that the successful first job employees have in common?
I think that what I've seen from most of the workforce that I've been able to onboard and out of successful candidates is that they have a willingness to learn and be self-starters and be responsible for their own actions and understand that with choices there are consequences. One of our struggles is finding employees that are looking to go into skilled trades, whether it's tool and die or maintenance mechanics. But we do have some of those candidates that are willing to continue to grow and develop from within the company and continue to enhance their skills. So it's about their understanding that they're going to get out of it what they put into it.
I think one of the biggest things for us is expectation of the new employee coming in. So shockingly, a lot of young people that come into a work environment think so highly of themselves, much highly than we do, that they think they ought to have a starting pay of X. And I know there's a national push to raise the minimum wage. I can tell you right now, there's no, because we've got to train. But a lot of times we get students and young people coming in that just think that number X is what they're worth, and actually return jobs down. I've seen that happen before. So I think it's a lot of the expectation of what they view successful and what we view successful. So we have training programs, and as all these guys I'm sure do, where if you want to operate one of our presses, it's a 2-year apprentice program. So they start out at X and they do all the stuff nobody wants to do. Load paper, get dirty, ink, crawl on the press, whatever it may be, to get to a point in 2 years where they can run that press. Once they do that, to be honest with you, they could leave us and go to any printer in the Southeast and get a position tomorrow because there's a shortage of it. We can't get them to year 2 a lot of times because that expectation for them is so different than our expectation. So yeah, I think that's a major part of us is just the attitude coming in and the willingness to learn sometimes is lacking.
Ditto. Along the same terms, I mean, basically what these guys are saying, I said my 4 keys to success. Attitude, I've got a co-op right now. Had 3 years training in welding, just an example. Comes out, he's expecting to be one of my top welders, get top pay. He was very disappointed when I put a grinder in his hand. He's got to learn the fundamentals. Had to have conversations with the guy. He doesn't know everything. All of these folks, they come in, they already know how to do what you do better than you do, and you can't teach them anything. So we have to kind of slow them down a little bit and say, I understand and recognize that you are intelligent and you know how to do it, but this is our method of doing things. So that's a big challenge for us. I hate to harp on attendance. That's still my plant. Most of the time it's attendance. If it's not that, it's drugs. So they're learning a lot of interesting stuff about drugs these days too. So we need to have, I think, some more education on that and kind of show them some reality stuff, reality things with the younger younger folks. They expecting the big paychecks and all this. I've got a 13-year-old son that goes to Sardis Middle School, for example. This is just a little short story. He played video games that all these kids are playing, and he was going to get a Bugatti. I didn't have a clue what a Bugatti was. And he had started his own lawn mowing business at 9, which I was super proud of. And he decided once he started getting paid and he realized that Bugatti's about $250,000, $300,000, and he started mowing in the hot sun for about $20 a yard, he's going to get a Ford truck. So I think they're disillusioned by the things they see on TV, and the reality is not reality anymore. They need a good dose of that. Give them a shovel, set them out in the yard in the middle of summertime, dig an imaginary ditch to the swimming pool you're going to build, and see if they got the initiative to do that. If they'll do that, they probably going to be pretty good.
So, and no, you're right. The question was what skills do you think the first job? So our like the gentleman up here, we have a variety of skill sets from the beginner clear to the highly skilled. And depending on what we're bringing in, we're going to talk about entry level ones, because typically the students coming out of high school or even still in high school would be an entry level job at our facility. And the skills they need to possess, and Kelly spoke of it again, is the attendance and the willingness to want to learn, right? I'm really confident that any one of these guys' training programs up there can train just about anybody that wants to learn how to do what we need them to do. But we can't do that if they don't want to. So that willingness, that drive, that I need to do better, I need to do better for myself and my potential family down the road. And is what we spoke of attendance earlier. Just for an example, our attendance at Newman, we hire through temporary service for a probationary period to see if they get hired in full time. Our turnover percentage last year was 74% of our temporary staff. So it tells you how many people turn over. And unlike Amit, we give them 3 days. So we know things happen, flat tires or whatever, and we're still at 74% turnover. Right? It's crazy. Just think about in your own class or your own business, if you own those as well, turning 7 people over out every 10. Man, it's just crazy numbers.
All right, along the same lines of that first job traits, what are the traits that successful first job employees, what do they have in common? What makes these first job employees that are successful? What do they do right?
Well, it goes a little bit back to what I was just talking about, that drive, right? When we get new associates in, in about 1 hour, you can tell if that associate has the drive to learn. They're not the guy or the gal sitting back behind with their hands in their pocket, shrugging their shoulders, waiting to be told something. They're the guy that's taking the screwdriver out of your hand or taking the teach pen out of your hand, wanting to learn it or asking questions like that. So that thirst for knowledge, right? That drive, I keep saying drive, but that's what it is. When you have somebody, you can see that. And I think that person will move up the ladder quickly because they will leave the other people behind because they want to learn.
I think you said it all. I call it gumption. That's what most people, I think it's the simple word around here is gumption. Do they have the gumption to get off their tail and try to do something with whatever you give them, whatever job it might be? A while ago I said about holding their pockets. If they're going to stand there and hold their pockets, you've got one type that does that. The other type is, just like he said, grab the teach pendant, grab the shovel out of your hand, the broom, the welder, whatever, and have the gumption to kind of self-start themselves, not wait to be told to do everything. And then you got those that's the hide and seek. They looking behind the machine, waiting to see if they're being seen. Can't stand those either.
For us, probably a willingness to continue to learn, continued education. We really push that hard. I'm sure these guys do as well, and send them to conference and those kind of things. So we have a number of people that started with us in the entry-level position that now are much higher in our company, just simply because they didn't quit learning every day. And I think I struggle with that with my own sons. I mean, I got one that's fixing to graduate from college, and he is sick of school. He is sick of school. He don't want crack another book for the next 5 years. But I guess one of the things we really stress on them, you guys give them tests for a reason. That's the grade. We get tested every day by our clients. Okay, so just yesterday we got our largest client just sent us an email, and we scored 94% on this, and we got to get to 97, 98%. Okay, so we know what we've got to do. It never stops. It never stops, and I think getting these young people to understand that learning is a lifetime deal, more so than their 12 years of high school or beyond. Because the learning will only start when they walk in our door. Because they don't know anything about print, and they don't know anything about what we do for customers. So continuing education for us is a big, big deal.
And I'm glad that you brought up tests, because I'm going to get even more basic and get to the point that's prior to them being an employee at Mueller. They've got to be able to follow simple instructions, and they have to be able to pass a drug test, a background check, and a physical abilities test, and be able to get to those places to perform those tests. Because before I can even get them in the door, I get a pretty good indication of what's going to be successful and what's not going to be successful. If I have to chase you around to ensure you went to this appointment, and in the past week I've had 2 people that have disqualified themselves with felony convictions that they didn't divulge to us and failed drug tests. Those sorts of things set people apart from successful candidates to unsuccessful candidates.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about your specific companies, just so they can have some kind of idea. A lot of folks may not know what types of jobs you have available. What's the pay range on some of those jobs, and what do y'all do to try to help elevate the employees once they start at an entry level to get them further on in the company? So let's just talk practically about those kind of things.
And I just want to use some very generic numbers, not too specific, but for instance, if you're talking about a grinder may start somewhere around $12.33, and when they top out, they'll be topped out just above $20. And all of our pay grades are controlled by a contract because we are a union plant. And employees and future employees have to understand that I'm bound by that contract and that job title as to what I can start them out as. And they have to progress the same way that every other employee came before them. The range of positions that we have everything from beginning in a grinder's position where they're taking raw material, the hydrants, the upper barrels that you see, that's the hydrant part you see visible above the street, and they take that when it comes out of its molds and it has rough edges, and they grind down the rough edges to prepare it to paint, all the way to the far side of our foundry and our assembly area where they're putting all those parts and pieces together to ship to municipalities so that they can use it within their system. So we have a wide range of positions available. I can tell you there's a shock on some of its face when they go into a foundry and they see melted metal being poured at 2,600 degrees plus and going into these molds to make fire hydrants. It's dirty work, but it's a great job, and it's a great opportunity because there's a lot of room for growth, opportunities to get vast experience, whether it be from a grinder all the way to an assembler to a furnace deck operator, the person that's controlling that 2,600 degrees of molten metal?
So we have a multitude of departments, and most entry levels start at 10 to 12, and around 27 an hour. Then, of course, managers. All of our managers were hourly at one time. They've all advanced up presently at our shop. So, but we also have IT positions. We also have front office personnel. Our last 4 receptionists have moved into our CSR position, which is a big step. They drive what we do every day in our companies. And then our estimator, who is probably one of the key roles in our entire organization, because they price things every day, started with us 30 years ago as a 17-year-old co-op student, and then has risen to our probably 3rd or 4th position in the company over that time frame. So we, again, what I see changing though, and the things that we could help, could use, is printing has changed multiple times in our industry over just the last 5 years. So 8 years ago, we were just doing offset printing. 5 years ago, we were only doing offset and digital printing, and then now we're doing wide format, which is inkjet technology. So the knowledge that's coming in is more computer-based. All of our machines are driven by computers. So whatever computer training we can get, of course, we've got to train on our software and everything, but just the basics really helps the new employee advance faster.
Well, we do custom fabrication work, a lot of heavy metal type stuff. We've got 3 basic departments outside of the office personnel, but kind of from the inception of where we begin to work on something, we get our order from the customer. So it travels through the engineering department. We have opportunities for engineering, not in the traditional 4-year sense, more of the engineering design. Those jobs, you can start out $15, $16 with a simple 2-year degree from Gadsden State, which is pretty decent money for around here. It's drawing layouts and things like that. We're high-tech on the inventor side. We don't do any 3D modeling as of yet, but we're looking at some of that type stuff. We are struggling to find anybody that's got inventor experience because they're being sucked up right out of high school, first year in junior college. Fiber optics companies are eating them up. There's a lot of other companies, Birmingham, Huntsville area especially, is eating them up. But there's just not a lot of kids that's interested in that. So educating them on some interest in that sort of thing might be a good thing for the future. But as far as our shop floor, we've got 3 basic departments: fabrication, fit and weld, and then our finishing department. Fabrication, they're just bending, breaking material, using band saws, things of that nature. Then it gets more high into the plasma and the laser room. Over fit and weld, it's just fitting and welding, but there's different levels in that. And then back in the finishing area, we've got blast, and then we've got paint. Our entry-level jobs across the board is $12 an hour. If you have no skill and we decide to take a chance on you that we're going to teach you, that you'll start out at $12 an hour. If you've got some experience, if you can run a bandsaw, I'll usually bump you up. I try to be consistent on all that, depending on what experience you got. But there's opportunity to grow. $17 an hour in a fab shop. Fit and weld, closer to the $20 top out range. And then in the paint area, we really had to set the top out on that because there's not a lot of things to go by on an experienced painter like we need. Somebody who can actually identify the different nozzles, mix the paint, things of that nature. There's not a lot of opportunities for me to compare apples to apples, really, from what we've seen. Now we will, but it probably is going to be somewhere around $19 an hour for that job to top out.
So at entry level, if someone come off the street and made it through our temporary service, and we decide to hire them in, again, that's the 1250 range. I think it's actually 1232 or some in that range. at that point, as Kelly said, that's if we take a chance on a person with zero experience. From that, we have a progression wage and every 6 months, pending the evaluation and or the way they conduct themselves, that there's a designed increase in their pay structure. So when that tops out at 4 years, we have a 4-year top out. And at this point right here, it's about 1550 or 1560 where our floor associate will top out. Beyond that, we have different levels of production management, different team leaders, different technical supports, different group leaders that we do. And once you get into a group leader status, have to go into a managerial position, which is a salary, which is in the 60 to 70 range a year. And just below that will be our team leader and TSs, which are in the 20 range to 28 range, depending on where they're at and what their skill level is. Once you get into the skilled positions, when I say skilled positions, I mean like some of our maintenance positions, some of our software engineering, some of our design, tool and die fields. That is, we have top outs of that, and you're in the 30 range, the 30 plus range. However, as some of the gentlemen up here spoke earlier, it's at 3% unemployment, that's a buyer's market, if you will, right? So now the employees are kind of depicting that. If they're going from jumping from this job to this job, the only thing that we can do for retention, one of the things you can do is, of course, that hourly wage goes up. I think the United States as a whole is having that problem with it. So we have a lot of opportunity there, even outside of the Newman side. There are other factories in here that designing the sash. So our main customer is Honda. We have another customer, Toyota, but our main customer is Honda. The Honda cars you see made down in Lincoln, the exhaust, the windows, the door sash on those trimmings, those are designed by Newman Associates. Honda don't design those. They tell us, here, you do this. Here's the hole, if you will. Make me something that fits in that's appeasing to the eye. So our workforce is actually the designers that do that, which is a little bit different than some of the big three. But those associates that are doing that started out as floor associates. I myself started out as a floor associate. So all those opportunities from the floor associate to move up, that drive I speak of, that's all right there. If you have that drive, the sky's the limit.
We're going to do a couple more questions here, and then we're going to have a little time for some questions from the audience. But this next question is kind of a fun question. What's the craziest reason you've had to fire an associate?
Some of the more crazier ones are why they quit, I think. The reasons they give why they quit.
Those two.
We had a guy last week that said that he can't work around people with the flu, so he walked out. Again, once you're at 3%, that's the people that don't want to work. You're gonna get something from time to time, and we understand that. I've had people that have violated the attendance. We have a structured attendance policy. And when you miss so many days or so many hours or so many minutes, we do it by actual work minutes compared to the missed minutes. So when you encroach on, or when you break that thing, we put them on an improvement program. When you get past that improvement program, well, then we no longer need you, right? Our motto is people change or people change. It's up to them what happens. So one of the things is one lady's dog was having puppies, so she didn't come to work, and then that put her over that whole program. So she lost her job because her dog was having puppies. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from her. That was very important for me. I mean, I'm all right with that, but in my lifestyle, that doesn't work because I still got car payments, right? So you got house payment and car payments.
The problem was, though, it wasn't the dog having puppies that you fired for. It was all those other things, right? And that's the thing, usually when they show up in your office, you got rid of them for a flat tire or whatever. It's not the flat tire, it's the 14 other excuses that we gave you. So, I really can't talk about the craziest one that ever had a fire, because it's inappropriate. So, really, we've all seen some crazy stuff, so I guess the craziest one that I can talk about is somebody huffing gasoline. They were supposed to be weed eating at night. When they called me and I could stand and talk to them, every breath was gas fumes. I was like, okay, why was you weed eating at night? But anyway, so that'd probably be the craziest thing that I can talk about. Anybody that wants to meet me to the side, I can tell you some stories.
We had an employee once that, there was a movie out way back about somebody worked at Target and moved some skids and they had a little cave back there with all this stuff. We actually had a guy that did that one time. He would go back there and sleep, and because we have a lot of skids of paper and he blocked stuff, and we found him. That was one. But the craziest one we ever had, this was years ago, we had a very young staff, and we had a good-looking guy that worked for us, and two girls in the building locked him. And nothing was going on. They just locked him, right? And one morning we come in, and they're in a fist fight in our bindery because one didn't say hi to the other, and they're knocking teeth out just about. So we had to pull it, you have to stop the whole day, you have to get everything written up and all that kind of stuff, and ended up, I had to let them both go just simply because we had no fighting possible.
So I'm going to go a little further back, and none of my most recent stories are as interesting as while I was on the HR team for the Air Force at basic training. We also had our cop school, and at that cop school, those students that are in the Air Force, they have to stay there. They stay in the dormitory. We had a young man that couldn't get to work on time. He just failed to get to work on time, and he was brought to our staff, and the HR person, the first sergeant that was dealing with him at the time, asked him, said, "Why can't you get to work?" He said, I just overslept. He gave him an alarm clock, said, "You better be at work at time tomorrow." The next day he was late again, and he finally pinned him down and said, why'd you miss formation this morning? And he said, "Well, to be honest, First Sergeant, I see ghosts." And he's like, "What?" He says, I see ghosts. I have ghosts that come in, and it's basic training. Those young people will just go up and go AWOL at times or be absent without leave. And that typically happened a lot at school. And in this school that we had, there was a number of people that were not accounted for. So the staff got called one evening, and they said, "You've got to come down here and see this. We've got something that you've got to come to our office space and you see, and drive to work, get there, and you walk in, and there's a guy standing with a sheet over him, holes cut out. And evidently one of the students that had tried to escape and hide out somewhere within the school was going in and tormenting this young man and eating his food and stuff. So he had to be taken to talk to our mental health professionals and whatnot. And so that was quite the challenge. So just it never surprises you why people make excuses for not being at work.
All right, this last question is kind of two-part. First, what would you like to see the schools do better to prepare graduates for entry into the workplace? And what are things that the schools and industry could work together on to better prepare graduates for the workplace?
Well, and I know there's some constraints on what you're able to do as far as accountability and trying to help students understand that their choices have consequences. And I wish that there was a way that we could help you be able to help them understand what those consequences are when they make poor choices, and that they have teeth, and understand that when they grow up and get in the world and they're trying to provide for their family, and because they make poor choices, they no longer have a job. That's a hard lesson to learn, when in the past they've been either it's because of the rules of engagement or because of parenting. You can blame whatever you will, those limits on being able to help children understand and young people understand that there's consequences. So that would be one. In a more practical problem that I have right now is being able to find those new employees, those new candidates that can come into the skilled entry-level position, as far as that are interested in tool and die, interested in running machines and so forth. We've swung so far to the IT side of the world that now my older employees that are getting ready to retire and leave, that have all those skills as far as skilled trade, I cannot find those people to come in behind them and replace them. So those are some challenges that we have that we need to look at together.
I'll add what he said. As an ex-school board member, I know your hands are tied in a lot of the stuff that you want to do, that you just can't do. But some of the things that would greatly benefit us, we would love to work with the school systems and the county and yourself, is the expectations, what to expect day one through the first year of entering a work program would be huge. I guess a lot of it too is I know schools are really oriented toward college and getting kids to college, and a lot of the factors in the state that you're graded on is based on that kind of stuff. But I think there's been a stigma over the years of picking up a trade, and I'd love to see that change. And if you've hired an electrician or a plumber in the last 6 months, those guys are not hurting. If you can get them to your house, they're making really good money. So I think a trade and having a mentality that that's not a back seat would be greatly beneficial to the kids and to employers.
Well. First off, what can y'all do for us, right? That's what everybody wants to know. Well, I think y'all are all doing a fantastic job and doing what you have been trained to do, and like I said, your hands are tied. I see that we're lacking some basic math skills, fractions, using measuring tapes. I guess I'm getting a little too technical for us. I said I did this panel thing discussion before, and I singled out the English teachers, so no offense. Mark Twain, I've never had to interpret that, diagram a sentence, any of that. Find out something your kids are interested in, let them write stuff on that, communicate better. Learn to actually write stuff that they're interested in. If it's technical, if it's deer hunting, doesn't matter. They haven't got to read the Crucible and give you an interpretation of that. You know what I mean? So we can, I'm not the most savvy on education, but I muddled through. One of these guys talked about emphasizing more in tech. I see, and I've seen since I grew up, that there was kind of a, I guess, look down on the students that went to the tech school. I think that needs to change. 4-year school's great, I've got both. But I can tell you at Geraldine, and sorry to pick on Geraldine, they wouldn't even let me fill out for a scholarship because they said I'd never make it. My teachers gave up on me. So don't y'all give up on your students. How can we help y'all? Well, I took it on myself about 2 years ago to try to help y'all, and I don't know if y'all have heard or whatever, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I think we need more people doing what I'm doing. I've been going out to the schools, volunteering my time to do mock interviews and talk about these things we've discussed today. Tell them the real world. We expect you to be here on time. I expect you not to come to interview in fuzzy slippers and pajama bottoms. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I think if we'll all join together and volunteer our time helping y'all, y'all can see more by coming to our plants, doing job shadowing, showing these kids there's more opportunities than just going to a 4-year school or just deciding that I give up. And, you know, a lot of it is parenting. I think my groups that toured our plant today, I said, hey, we're expected to be their parents now. That's a lot of it. So it's a combination of a lot of things. Not one silver bullet that's going to get it done. But I'm willing to help. If I can come out, talk to you students, tell them any of this stuff. Like I say, I'm just an old country bumpkin from Geraldine, but I do have a little bit of common sense, and I like to talk.
So, what you can do for us. I spoke of it, the first question, where I started talking about the work keys and about getting the potential associates ready for work. The CCU, the College and Career Readiness Score that somebody gives our school systems, right? I looked it up today because I knew Boaz was going to be here, and you guys are 70% for the last scoring period. Meaning 70% of your students are ready for college or career. That leaves 30% of them and I'm not throwing stones here, that leaves 30% of them off. So if you want to know what you can do for us, we need to attack that 30%. And I almost guarantee that your administration's doing that, right? That's the desire. That college, we spoke of it up here earlier, the college, a lot of schools are geared towards that. The career is what we're interested in. Because of that 30% that's not ready, they can very easily be ready. And of that 70% that is ready, there's a gap in there. There's a percentage of them that's going to go to college, and there's a percentage of them that's not. And then also the percentage that's going to college won't be there the following year in college, right? There's some fallout there. And I'm not a statistician, so I don't know what those numbers are, but I do know that if we can grab those students and show them what it takes to be ready for work, that would be better for the community and better for everybody sitting up here. What we're doing for you, we like Kelly, we try to stay very, very active in workforce development. You've seen the stat up here when Ed was up here talking about it. The amount of workforce that's going to be leaving, right? It's going to be exponentially worse every year. I think it was 2030. It'll be about 500,000 or something, 479,000, I think the number was, that they're not going to be ready. So we know that we have to do something, right? We can stay back at the shop and call our temporary service and say, hey, I need 25 people every day. But that's not going to work. So we're actively trying to get out there. Part of this is what we're doing. We're actively trying to get out there. Workforce development with the state that Ed spoke of. Some of the other things, Apprenticeship Alabama we're involved in, to get those potential high-skilled trade workers into the facilities, not Newman, everyone up here, get them in the facilities, get them trained with the state's help. The state has made money available to help with that training. We've grabbed hold of that, and we're initially we was the pilot program, but they since expanded that. And our desire is to get those candidates in here, get them trained in an apprenticeship, get the 2-year apprenticeship program degree underneath their belt. We know we're going to lose some of them. We're okay with that. That's why we've made kind of a deal with the state of Alabama. Every year we put 5 new candidates into that program. The Ready to Work program, I got my trainer there is working, is partnered with Snead State, and they do the actual Ready to Work class on site. For those of you that was there, the meeting room you went into with the vest and the safety glasses, that's where we hold that meeting. So we're trying to stay active. Alabama is, I've been to 3 different states in my work career, and Alabama by far is the best when it comes to that. Ohio, South Carolina, and Alabama. Alabama's the best. Is trying to help businesses and students do that. And I've seen it's grown here in the last 3 years greatly. So we appreciate what you're doing. We're trying to work with different community or different school systems to work on those different co-ops and those different work programs. We've partnered with Guntersville. We'd love to partner with Boaz. We're just open to anything. So if you have any questions or anything you want to ask about the apprenticeship program or the Ready to Work, feel free to give us a call. We'll certainly help you get those answers.
Grab me that other wireless mic. We have time for a couple of questions from the audience.
We keep hearing in our presentations, employers are crying for soft skills. Have you guys left out anything that you're considering soft skills? I mean, we hear attendance, attitude, come in, be able to pass a drug test and try. If a kid's going to come in and do that, you guys can probably make them do what needs to be done to grow. But are there any other soft skills? Because when we hear soft skills, it turns into a handshaking lesson, and we need to know what else.
I have not taken the Ready to Work class myself, although we administer it there. But some of the soft skills that they describe in there, they speak of, is what some of us would take. But I think I got a challenge for you. Everybody, if they can, get on the Work Keys test and take the Work Keys test that we're asking our seniors to take, right? If you look at that test and you think, oh my gosh, this is easy, then why do we have 30% that can't pass it? Or if you think, oh my gosh, this is hard, then you'll know what you have to teach your students to advance in it, right? Some of those soft skills that we would take, that we think is, or that I would think anyways, is pretty fundamental would be filling out a resume. One of the gentlemen up here spoke of emails, right? What your email is. Some of them don't have them. Some of them is applying for a job, says, I'm the bestmanavailable.com or whatever that is, right? They don't know how to make a correct email for the business minded, or how to apply for a job and have that. You spoke of handshake, that's part of it, right? Math skills that Kelly talked about, that's not really soft, that's getting more towards the medium side, if you will, right? But that's taught in there. Just how to sign on and use a computer, right? There's probably not, I know, there's no one out there in that audience right now that doesn't use a computer daily, probably. And there's nobody up here that doesn't use a computer daily. But when our associates first come in, some of them have never used a computer. Every job at our facility requires an associate to use a computer. Simple sign-ons and adds and subtraction, printing labels and recording production and recording scrap and downtime reasons and all the measurements that we take there. So there's a lot of soft skills in there. I don't have a list of them in front of me, but if you that Work Keys test that you guys administer, a lot of that's on there. Now it's about twice as long as that on the SNEED State Ready to Work. Actually, it's AIDT that owns that, but SNEED State administers it for this area.
We've got one that we focus on now. We've got actually somebody coming to the building to have to do topping classes, because students, and I'm not just blaming students, it seems like it's our whole culture now, are so used to packing on a cell phone or an iPad that to get them to type, and it used to be we had 3 people in our entire organization that did data entry. Now everybody in our business does data entry, whether it be time, whether it be production numbers. We got so much data coming in that our IT guy has got somebody coming to just do a typing class for actually our whole building.
And I'm going to take that a little bit wider and not just focus on soft skills, but when we talk about soft skills, just want to reach out and talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. That, you know, we're saying some of these things up here, but not using the specific terms in emotional intelligence. A little bit of self-awareness so that they have some expectation management, and a little bit of social regulation as far as how they interact with each other. Those soft skills are also critical, and not only to them when they're a new hire, entry level, but they're critical as they move up and they get more responsibility, and they have to lead a team and encourage people to want to do what needs to be done instead of just telling them to do what needs to be done.
Any other questions? We got time for about one more question. Well, if not, let's give our panel a hand.